If you know all the words to a song in Japanese but have no idea what they mean, you might be a weeaboo. If you'll spend $100 on a figure but won't spend more than $15 on a shirt, you might be a weeaboo. If you get legitimately annoyed when people pronounce it manga instead of manga, you might be a weeaboo. If your gloves don't have fingers, but your hats have hand warmers, you might be a weeaboo. If you have to redecorate your apartment when your parents come to visit, you might be a weeaboo. If you think of gay porn whenever someone mentions men with big hands, you might be a weeaboo. If your Hot Topic phase never ended, you might be a weeaboo. If you don't have time to read books anymore, but spend at least an hour a day on otome games, you might be a weeaboo. If you see a 6-digit number and think, what type of porn is this? You might be a weeaboo. If you break out in a cold sweat when your coworkers ask you about your interests and hobbies, you might be a weeaboo. If you've sat in a Barnes & Noble for hours on end but left without buying anything, you might be a weeaboo. If you roll your eyes whenever a young-looking character is revealed to actually be hundreds of years old, you might be a weeaboo. If your default pose for photos is the peace sign, you might be a weeaboo. If you have to work to keep your mouth shut if your teacher mentions Nero Claudius or Gilgamesh, you might be a weeaboo. If the word cartoons has offended you on more than one occasion, you might be a weeaboo. If your high school friend group consisted of 3 to 5 girls and 1 boy who they'd occasionally ask to cross-dress, you might be a weeaboo. If your high school friend group consisted of 3 to 5 boys and 1 girl who wore bootcut jeans and unflattering hats, you might be a weeaboo. If you identify as bisexual but the only men you're attracted to are fictional, you might be a weeaboo. If you are not a lawyer, judge, or cop, but you regularly use the term lewd, you might be a weeaboo. And finally, if 1/3 of your friends will only message you on Discord, 1/3 of your friends will only message you online, and the last third refuse to sign up for either regardless of how many times you ask them to, you might be a weeaboo.